All right. And we are live.
Amazing. Right on the money, too.
Woohoo! We're in, people. Loving it.
So I can't see how many people are tuning in, but as everybody is getting situated, throw up in the chat a little hello and where you're tuning in from, and we will greet some people and then dive in a couple of minutes once everybody's got their link live and they're sitting and ready to go. How is the new
Yes,
year how has the new
indeed.
year been, gals? Like, fill me in.
It's been it's been fantastic, and it's also been the way New Year's are, which I think, we'd all like to say, "It's 100% amazing. Oh my gosh, like, 2024 gonna be the best year ever." And I'm gonna be honest with you, like, there's some moments where I feel exactly like that, and then there are other moments where I'm like, whoa, I'm in winter mode and it is cold and I am like slogging physically and mentally. And like, I just acknowledge that. I just acknowledge that that is what's there for me.
Okay, so, like, an entire like, my life just flashed before me. Cooley Ranks, ska artist, badass from my life as Scariel in the '90s. Shout out.
Shout out.
Rachel, still sick that I missed you in New Orleans because I didn't make it. Really happy to see, Robert Smith, who's an amazing producer and a
Yes. Hey,
newer
Robert.
friend, but, I think everyone on this call knows Robert. Yay. So hi,
Totally.
everyone. People tuning in from Northern Virginia, from Orlando, from the UK, also in New York City. Hi, hi, hi.
Shout out to Shelly. Hello. Wow. Been a long time.
Buffalo, I hope you're not buried in snow. We just got some rain here in New York City.
Miami. Awesome. I love a Miami trip. So shout out to Rachel in Miami.
Seriously, the colder it gets here, the more we're all like, Miami, that would be good.
Right. Why didn't we all move there? What?
So, for those of you who do not know these two fantastic women, I am, first of all, when they asked me to host their webinar, I said yes without hesitation. And the reason why I did that is because both Cassandra and Suz have been champions for me in my career. And not only that, today in the pre-roll, Cassandra and I were trying to figure out, these people in your life that have just always felt like they've always been in your life? That's me and Cassandra. We can't figure out where the hell we met each other, but I danced at her wedding. We've spent many, many, many a happy time together. I've had the privilege and honor of consulting with her on multiple projects. I'm actually even in one of her music videos.
You are the
And
"You Get Me" video. Represent. Ariel is in the "You Get Me" video with the dogs from the New York Humane Society, which is awesome.
that was a really fun project to participate in. And the story I want to tell about Cassandra, and there are many, many stories to tell, but the one that stands out and the one that I think is important for artists is when I joined the Grammys about a dozen years ago, they invited me to the New York chapter to go and have a meeting and talk about how I might help the Grammys. And Nick Cucci, who's the head of New York City Grammys, and we were chatting about like everything I could do and what artists need help with. And he said, "Well, do you know Cassandra Kubinski?" And I said, "Of course I do. Who doesn't?" And he said to me, "Why can't every independent musician be like her?" And I was like, wow, that says a lot because when the head of Grammys, who gets to meet thousands of artists globally, but also all the artists in New York, feel that way, it means that Cassandra's doing something right. So that's my little capsule story of Cassandra.
Thanks.
Suze met me because she came up to me at the Women in Music.
I accosted you. Let's just call it what it is. I physically accosted you.
No, it was not.
It works.
It wasn't an accostation. No,
Oh
it
my
was. It was one of those moments where all three of us are in Women in Music and have been for years. And for those men on the call, you should join Women in Music because everyone should join Women in Music. But Suz was like, everywhere I turn, people ask me if I've met you, and I haven't. So hi, I'm meeting you. And then we went for coffee, and then I read her book, and then her book was brilliant. And then I threw her a book launch party, and we have since collaborated in many ways and shapes and forms. And Suz currently acts as my COO. So she is my COO at CyberPR. On my darkest days when I am confused and confounded and overwhelmed, she gets calls. When I can't figure out how certain unnameable apps work, she gets emails. And she's just been an incredible support. Both of these women are brilliant and amazing. And I love what they're about to teach. And the reason why is because if your mindset isn't straight, and if there's any sort of BS rattling around in your brain, if you feel like you're an imposter, if you feel like you're a fraud, if you just have doubts, and midway through we're going to talk about sort of like case studies of like how and where those doubts come up. I think nothing will happen in your music career where, regardless of where you're at in it, if you don't have your head on straight, and if you're not in a positive mindset where you're ready to take on all of the things that you need to take on. And that's a whole unfair seminar that we could have another time. That's not what this is about. But mindset is everything. And these wonderful women have something really special for us planned today. So please take it away, ladies, and welcome to my community. I'm so honored that you're presenting for us.
Thank you so much, Ariel. So, everybody, we're gonna move Ariel into the green room just so that we have a little bit more screen space here. So hang on. The excitement of technology requires that I move all these lovely windows. Okay, Ariel, we'll see you in just a little bit. Okay. Cool. All right. So welcome everybody. Like Ariel said, we're so excited to be leading this conversation. The way that you can get the most out of this conversation is to participate in it. So be really active in the comments. We do see your comments. So if you have questions, if you have responses to things, just make sure you're being really active in the comments. We are going to do our best to answer everything that you drop in there. Without further ado, I want to bring on Suz. And Suz, do you have any housekeeping?
Yeah, so just a few quick things. Like Cassandra said, definitely hit us up in that chat box. We love to see it active. And we know Ariel's community is super, super active. I've had the pleasure of speaking with this community in the past. So thank you so much for having me back. It's always such a great time. And yeah, just a few things. Stick around to the end. You know, we're going to aim to end this right on time. And we've got a few good gems for you that you'll learn about today, but we also have a really amazing offer for you at the end. So do hang on, do catch us. We will also send out a replay. So if you have to leave early, we understand, but later this evening, we will email you a link to the replay and make sure that you check out what we've got to offer beyond this in case you're looking for additional support. So what we're going to do today is really jump into what fraud talk is, how it shows up, how it's shown up for us in our careers, and what it looks like on the other side when you've gotten through it. What happens when you can really take that fraud talk, that imposter syndrome, that inner critic, that voice that's always like, are you sure about that? Do you really want to do that? Oh, that's you're going to ask for money? Or that's how much money you're going to ask for. You know, that voice inside, whether it comes from your family or yourself or wherever you might get that negative self-talk that creeps up when you're about to do something big or when you're about to take that risk for yourself in your career. we're gonna show you what it can look like when you're able to harness that and throw it off to the side. So what really is fraud talk? So from a psychology standpoint, so for those of you that don't know, I am a licensed therapist, and this is something that comes up a lot in therapy, is the fraud talk, is that negative self-talk that just, it can spiral for some people, can really take us to a place that paralyzes us. And so the first thing I want to say about it is it's completely normal. It's actually a survival mechanism, and all animals have it. Like, we all have it in some way, shape, or form. Your dog may not know it as fraud talk, but it's like, it's that survival instinct of, oh, you sure you want to go there? You know, I always think about it when I walk my dog Charlie, my little corgi, when I take him for walks, and he, especially at night, if he can't make something out, he just stops. And he's like looking, and he's not really sure, because it's that animal instinct that wants to keep us safe from danger, safe from the unknown, right? So that's worked out well for all of our past, as you know, when we think back to like human history, right? Hundreds and thousands of years ago, that's worked out well to keep us as humans safe, right? It keeps my dog safe. If he can't tell if it's a squirrel or a cat in the bushes, he's not really sure. But when he can make out that is a cat, ooh, he's going after it. Like, he knows with confidence, like, I'm taking on that cat, and he doesn't think twice about it. But until he has that clarity, he's not taking any steps. While that works well in the wild, it holds us back, and it doesn't do us well when we're being innovators, dreamers, going after what we want, taking chances in our careers, and risking it. It is a risk. Everything that you guys are doing out there to make music full time, or whatever your dream might be as a creative, to take those steps. If your goal is not to work the same old 9 to 5 in a job every day and clock in and clock out, you're taking a risk. It's not the prescribed thing that we're used to. So it's a risk in that sense, but you are more than capable of sharing your gifts with the world. That fraud talk, that instinct to keep us safe and play small, it has no room here. Not if you want to achieve big dreams and take those big steps. So we have to take that instinct and get rid of it. We have to retrain it and get out of that habit of, oh, okay, that's scary. That's risky. That's not good for me. So I'm not going to do it. We have to really look at it and say, why is that showing up for me right now? Why am I hearing that over and over again? Why am I talking myself out of something that I really know in my gut is something I'm born to do? Why am I talking myself out of it? And that's really what we're going to peel apart today. So, you know, Cassandra, I know for me, my biggest thing was, I'm not good with money. I'm not good with money. So I'm not going to ask for a lot of money. I'm not going to charge people a lot of money. It had nothing to do with my ability to serve, but it was about, oh, but if I make a lot of money, what if I lose it, or I don't manage it well, or I spend it on the wrong thing? So I just stayed away from making money. So I offered a lot of my services for free, and I worked way too many hours for way too little money for so many years. And that was something that I had to overcome. So Cassandra, I'm curious, how did your fraud talk show up? What was your imposter syndrome that kept nagging at you?
Absolutely. So I'd love to get a poll of how many artists we have on the call today. So if you are an artist or creative, consider yourself an artist or creative, please just drop an emoji or a yes or a hi in the comments. We'd love to just acknowledge you because that's what I do full time. So I'm a songwriter, a performing artist, a voiceover artist. And one of my most um, most powerful pieces of fraud talk that started young and has stayed with me is I'm too old. Who else maybe has that? And great shout out to all of the artists that I'm seeing. Wow, amazing. Awesome songwriters, artists. Fantastic. Thank you guys for sharing. So, yeah, so for me, one of the biggest pieces of fraud talk was just this little voice that said, "You're too old to do that." Um, Now, I think that it started when I was very young. I did a show called Annie, a musical theater show, and it was my first professional role. And I did it when I was the age of 12. Now, here's what's so insane about fraud talk is that a lot of it does get embedded for us at a very early age. And for me, I was doing a role that is written as an 11-year-old when I was 12. And I know that sounds like completely ridiculous, but you would be shocked how big a deal it was in the musical theater community and amongst all of the other kids who were playing the other orphans in Annie, that it was like, whoa, like I turned 13 during the process. So it was like, what? Oh my gosh, you're 13 and playing an 11-year-old. And so I absorbed this idea that I was like so lucky. I had just skated by. I had just gotten in under the wire, and that basically I was too old. And then along the way in my career, this hidden belief, this imposter syndrome, fraud talk kind of stayed with me, and it would show up in ways like I would think it would block me from going out to parties that I thought, "Oh, everybody there is just gonna be, like, so cool and so young and so hip and probably, like, I don't know, like, I feel like I can't go to that." And so I would miss opportunities to go and make genuine connections with artists who I might, collaborate with, I might want to, work with. There were also things that came up like, "You're too old to be on the radio," or "You're too old to go viral," or "You're too old to get a deal." All of those things have proven to be untrue because I've accomplished all of those things. But that was a really big one for me that I had to work with. And what we'll be talking about throughout the course of this webinar as well as further is that sometimes the fraud talk, it's not necessarily going to go away, but you learn really healthy ways to deal with it when it comes up. So we're going to be sharing that. But for now, who wants to be really brave and maybe share? Do you have a favorite piece of fraud talk? And the reason I say favorite is because the phrase that I like to use is we've got to befriend it to transcend it. So instead of looking at it like, like this is the one that's just, it's the worst for me. Let's kind of maybe start looking at it like, you old friend, like you again, you've been with me. Like you've really been with me on this journey. So if you have one that's been with you on the journey for a while, maybe a little imposter syndrome, a little fraud talk, a little just inner critic, like something that comes up for you and sort of it stops you from taking action on something that you really do want. I encourage you to be brave. Oh, I love it. Thank you, Karen. Not good enough. Thank you, Ariel. Yeah, listening to others, like allowing others' energy to uh, absorb into us, right? And stop us from taking action. Yep, another you're not good enough. Thank you, Benita. Um, thank you. Yeah, you're not really a musician, so what can you add to the world of songwriters? Wow, that's an amazing one. And thank you for being so specific because like that is really something that can come up, right? So what does fraud talk stop us from achieving? That's what we want to get into next. You want to look for and identify the specific ways that this fraud talk or imposter syndrome might be getting in your way. There's something that you want to achieve, and fraud tech is kind of showing up and blocking you. So you can comment if any of these resonate for you, or you can just kind of close your eyes and feel into whether any of these areas resonate for you. Do you feel like fraud talk or imposter syndrome is affecting your progress in perhaps your writing, your performing, maybe collaborations, feeling like you can and cannot work with certain people, like producers or artists, maybe people that you'd perform with? Production or how your tracks have sounded. Maybe there is a negative voice that says somehow that the way it was in the past is the way it's always going to be. Um, Maybe your fraud talk is showing up in your ability to identify yourself as an artist or who you get to declare that you are. Or maybe, and I really had this going on for a while, maybe fraud talk affects your feeling of worthiness to be an artist, like the kind of artist you want to be and achieve what you want to achieve. So if any of that resonates with you, just give us a 1 in the comments. All right, Karen, awesome. Thank you. Yes to all. Anybody else want to give us just a 1 in the comments, or maybe if you want to write a specific one, that you feel like, all right, this is an area where it shows up, where fraud talk shows up and starts to kind of block me. All right, yeah, cool. Seeing like that waterfall of ones come in. So you are not alone. You should know that this type of stuff affects everybody. Um, when we were preparing to deliver this webinar, I just started to do some research because I was like, who else? Like, who do we think is like totally free of this, that actually is really struggling with this in the background? And I discovered that people like Adele and Demi Lovato and Shawn Mendes and Michelle Obama and Wolfgang Puck have had these huge successes, and even they still deal with this. So you are absolutely not alone, you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, what we're curious about is what are some outcomes? What are some things that you want to achieve, right? We've started a new year. I'm sure a lot of you had started thinking about your goals, or even things that were on your plate from 2023 that you haven't reached yet. So what are some outcomes, some results that you're working on currently, or that you wish you were working on, but maybe some of these negative self-talk things, that phrases that we've been saying here, have kept you from working on it? So why don't we just focus on the positive? What are the goals? Tell us in the comments. Is it playing bigger venues? Is it selling out a venue perhaps? Is it writing, producing, performing with another artist or songwriter? Is it working on certain projects or collaborations? Is it overcoming some hurdle that's been in your way? What are some of the things that you are focused on working on right now? Let us know in the comments how we can help, because it's important to name where you're going. If we can see where we want to go, what is the thing that we're trying to achieve, it's easier to figure out how that fraud talk is stopping us from getting there. So while you guys let us know in the comments, think about what are some of the things either that you're currently working on or that you'd like to be working on in this new year to achieve. I'm going to get a little vulnerable with you guys and go back to that little bit of fraud talk that was eating at me in the beginning of building the Rockstar Advocate. So we're not going to just ask you guys to get vulnerable in the comments. We're also going to be getting vulnerable ourselves. So when I started the Rockstar Advocate 9.5 years ago at this point, which is bananas to me, I thinking back to that phrase, you're bad with money. That was something that got in my head around like 4 or 5. I remember, my parents used to always put me in dresses, and you know what? For girls, we didn't always have pockets like boys do. I wasn't always in the jeans and the sweatpants until I fought for that later when I was like 9 or 10 years old. But when I was little, I was in a dress. And we'd get our allowance. I got $1 at the end of every week if I was good. And sometimes if it was like around your birthday, I got $2. And my dad would give me the $1 or the $2. And my brother would just stick it in his pocket and run off. And I would just hold it, because where was I putting it? And so then like I'd be playing with $1 or something and I'd put it down. And then like my dad or my brother, somebody would find it and they'd put it in their pocket. And then they say, hey, Sue, like, where's all that allowance? Where's that money that you would get? And I was like, where is it? And what was I told from when I was a very little girl? You're not good with money. Don't give this girl any money. She's going to lose it. She's not good with money. And it's not like I grew up in an abusive household or anything like that. But when you're at that age, the way the mind is working is we're not old enough yet to have context to things that we hear. So it's usually around that 5, 6, 7-year-old range that we kind of lock in stories as fact. We lock in certain things that we hear as, oh, that's reality. So very innocently, I heard these comments being thrown around like, Sue's always losing her money, or don't give Sue money, she'll lose it. And it just stayed with me. And it wasn't until years later into my adulthood, working with a money coach and working with a therapist and figuring out like, why am I so anxious asking for money? Why am I so anxious about all this stuff? It's because that to me was my imposter syndrome. I'm bad with money. It was a story that I told myself over and over again. And so when I built the Rockstar Advocate, I had already known that this was a thing, and I was still playing small. I was like, I guess there's just nothing I could do about it. Like the fraud talk shows up. I'm going to do my best to talk myself down. But I guess this is just what I'm meant to be. This is going to just be a small little business. When I was able to finally look at fraud talk square in the eye, really understand why it was showing up, and work through it, I'm just going to read you a list of some of the things I was able to do when I got on the other side of that fraud talk. When I was able to say, as Cassandra said, like, I befriended it, saw you, I acknowledge you, thank you, but you gotta go. And when I was able to get a handle on that, here's, not only was I able to triple my business, but I was able to hire an assistant, take on group, private, and agency clients. I was able to pursue my state license in therapy. I was able to attract like-minded colleagues and work in their communities like Cassandra and Ariel and so many other badasses in this industry. And because I wasn't afraid to make those requests, I felt confident enough to say, I deserve to be in that conversation. I deserve to ask, for other people to have this conversation with me. And I was able to try new ideas and know that they didn't have to be the right ideas. I just needed to learn from them. I was able to do more and take more action with my business, be on more podcasts, talk on more stages, collaborate with more people, because the thoughts would come up, but I was able to identify them as, oh, that's just fraud talk. Oh, that's just my imposter syndrome showing up. That doesn't make it true. And when you're able to do that, the results you can get are endless. And all of those things that I just listed, I tried for years to do beforehand. I had 2 businesses before the Rockstar Advocate. I had over 10 years of experience in the music industry before I was able to achieve all of these things by getting a handle on my fraud talk. So that's why this stuff is so important. And Cassandra, what are other some powerful ways that it shows up for you, this work, this getting over this fraud talk?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Suz, for just vulnerably sharing. And also, I want to really acknowledge those of you who have jumped into the comments and shared some of what's blocking you. We're seeing it, we're reading it, and first of all, the first step to dismantling it is giving it a voice, which strips it of its power. So the fact that you're even doing that, I just want to give you some props for that right now, because it's like you guys are here, right? A lot of other folks are out there grappling with this, and they're not here. They're like, like they couldn't even get themselves onto this session today. So I just want to really, really acknowledge you guys for being here and showing up and participating in the comments. So I had a whole story. I had a whole story that I was going to tell you guys, but I think I'm going to tell you a different one, because we do have so many artists on and songwriters here. So there's this one song that I wrote, and it's called Just Being Myself. And I remember I wrote it at a time where I had just come off of a really challenging relationship, where I felt like I was listening to that person, speaking of what Ariel mentioned earlier. And I didn't feel like I could write a song that said anything self-congratulatory. I felt like I could not, like, when I wrote this song, Just Being Myself, I remember I was in the studio alone and I wrote it. And the chorus says, I'm sorry that I'm irresistible. Even I want to be all over myself. I'm sorry that I'm unpredictable. One minute you're heaven, next minute you're hell. And if you can't handle it, oh well, but I'm just being myself. And I remember when I wrote these words, I read them back and I was like, I cannot say this. Like, I can't actually go sing this, because then they'll just know. They'll know what a wildly egotistical maniac I am. Like, they'll know that, like, they'll have so many judgments. Like, I just can't, I can't write this. I can't sing this song. And I remember, so I played it for a friend who said, you really have to play it live. And when I started playing it live, the craziest thing happened. I started having people come up to me and say, I think you got in my head, and I think you wrote that song for me. So that was the first thing. The first thing that happened was that there was this gratification from realizing that I actually had channeled something that other people feel, and that by my bravery and courage to give it a voice, other people were then able to relate to it. Congratulating ourselves and acknowledging our own awesomeness is something that I feel like the culture is just finally coming around to. And it's still sort of a tricky thing. But wait for it, it gets better, because had I allowed that fraud talk and that imposter syndrome and that inner critic to stop me from putting the song out and playing the song, a couple other things never would have happened. One, the song never would have gotten used in multiple TV shows. So it was used in a ton of Bravo TV shows because of a deal with Viacom, where it just got used like with different shows across that conglomerate. It got used in Real Housewives. I'll never forget, one of my closest friends called me up and was very, very excited because he was like, "Hey, I now know that you're famous because Just Being Myself is playing on Real Housewives of Miami, and the women they're dancing with a midget Latino to Just Being Myself, so that's how I know that you're famous." And I'm like, not even joking. Like, I was like, "What? That's crazy." So the syncs that came from it, the community that came from it, I ended up making 2 different music videos with Just Being Myself. And then something that I'm also really, really proud of, last year, I partnered up with my friend Phil, who is a cancer survivor, and we made a music video centered around pride. We made a pride-centric music video. Um, yeah, and I'm so proud of that video, and collaborating with Phil, who is a gay man who has survived cancer, and we were able to take the song and use it as an anthem to create a visual celebrating all of that. And that's all just to say that if I had allowed that fraud talk to stop me, none of that ever would have happened. So, you know, there was a lot of abundance and connection, um, and additional creativity, and that song continues to be kind to me. Like, there are royalties that come in from that song, and it all came from being willing to step past the fraud talk and utilize the tools that I had to hold my own hand and say, actually, I am going to put this out, and I am strong enough to deal with whatever comes up from doing that. Um, so, so that's one little piece for me. Ariel, if you're still there, would you want to hop back in here and share maybe a little tidbit of what you have overcome in your own fraud talk journey? I'm going to add you back in. Adding you.
Hi.
Okay.
So I would love to talk about how fraud talk can become activated. So it's not only about the oldest story in the world that you carry around with you, which is definitely, it's unbelievable. Cassandra thought she was too old at 13, and Suz realized she was bad at money at 5. Like, and if you do any kind of self-realization therapy, you can always begin to trace these things back to whatever happened to you at a super young age. And those fraud talk stories can be dangerous. But I want to also present something else, which is rampant in sort of our existence in today's world, where we're using this thing that we all hate and love called social media. And the problem with the fact that all musicians and all people online have to be online today to be relevant and to get the word out about all this stuff is you're opening yourself up to a whole world of people who might be having a bad day, people who might have mental health issues, people who don't feel good, and they're taking it out on you because they didn't like the color of your t-shirt that you posted, whatever. And so there is actually many psychological studies that sort of talk about the impact of negativity versus the impact of positivity. And this is what can be massively harmful if your fraud talk gets spiked or awakened by someone else's problem online. So an example, and the statistics is, one positive comment is great. You could put out a new song or post a new video, or you've got a new idea and you're sharing it online, and people could love it, love it, love it, love it. And 10 people could love it, and that feels good. And then one person can say something on the spectrum from slightly off color and weird where you're like, huh, to downright nasty and disgusting, because that's how people can be online. And all of a sudden, your fraud talk is activated.
Mhm.
And there could be something in that that spiked it, right? So it doesn't matter what the person said, but here's the stat that I want you to really get. 35 times. One crappy, shitty person posting something has the impact of 35 positive posts. So we feel 35 times more horrible, and we're 35 times more activated when anyone says something. And you might not even know who that person is.
Mhm.
So kind of understand that as well, because here we are, we're on social media, we have to be on social media, we're forcing ourselves to be on social media. We constantly have to be talking about our project, our thing, promoting, marketing, posting, and all it takes is just one person having a bad day. Or I think about, in my case, I published my first book, and you can all go look at this on Amazon. One of my competitors, this nasty woman who actually does have mental health issues, and she's well known in the industry for being horrific, and she wrote a scathing review, an anonymous scathing review of my book. And you'll find it. It's there. It's on Amazon. It's horrible. I cried so many tears over that, even though I knew who she was. I knew that she was struggling. Excuse me, but
Bless you.
it just activated something. So there you have it.
Again. Thank you so much, Ariel, for sharing that. That stat is kind of terrifying.
Staggering,
But
yeah.
also kind of empowering in a way, right? Because it's like, if we know
Mhm.
that that's what we're up against, then we know that it's even more important to establish support, and find techniques and tools and ways that we can meet this fraud talk when it comes up, and process it more quickly, because like 35 times is overwhelming. Like, one great comment, "Ooh, I feel that. I really feel that in my heart. Like, my body feels good." 35 times that in like the negative sense is like, I don't sometimes, you might not like feel like you can even process that right away, but it's like the tools and techniques that you can learn to process that. Um, Even if it takes a little while, it's super important to get that like cleared from your system so that you can
Right.
continue to move along.
And Benita had said in the chat, is that because we focus on negative comments more? And there's a lot of reasons for that statistic, but one of them goes back to that survival mechanism. We are looking for ways. Our body is always like, how do I stay safe? How do I stay safe? How do I stay safe? And so if you've already got that little nugget inside of you, like Ariel said it correctly, it activates that imposter syndrome. It activates that, not feeling so good or thinking good about what you've just done. Because yeah, all the positive stuff is good. But if you think about it, we're already assuming we already have to overcome all those doubts to take that action. So the positive comments are already have to get us back up to here, right? But the negative comment is already meeting us where that fraud talk lies. And so it's that familiarity. We connect with familiarity. So when you have that fraud talk, that kernel that says, oh, was this a good idea? Or, oh, what I'm about to do is super vulnerable. And somebody says something, it's like that confirmation bias, which I'm not going to get into. That's a whole other conversation. But it triggers or activates that confirmation bias of, see, I knew I shouldn't have done that. Yep, I'm going to go back over here and pretend I didn't just release that new song that made me super anxious, or I didn't put myself out there and post that selfie that I was super, nervous about, or I didn't publish that book that went on to become a bestseller. So it confirms in our mind all of our greatest fears, and so that's why that we feel it so much more, and that's why it's so important, as Cassandra was saying, that we use these tools to make sure that doesn't happen. Sorry, go on, Cassandra.
No, absolutely. Thank you for jumping in with that.
Yeah.
So we want to turn it back over to you guys. What are you starting to see could open up for you if you were to be able to deal with your imposter syndrome, your fraud talk, your inner critic? What could be there for you? We're talking things that might terrify you to imagine right now, or even ask for. But if there was some really cool result that you have been wanting, or that maybe you are just now allowing yourself to realize that you want, what could be there for you on the other side of that inner critic, that imposter syndrome? If you're brave enough, please do put it in the comments. But either way, just really start to feel into like what could be possible, even if you've never allowed it to be possible before. Because that's actually like that's kind of like the juicy woo magic of doing this kind of work, is that when you do get to the other side, there's an identity, there's a future, there are possibilities for action and collaboration and creativity that actually become possible when they weren't before. So yeah, just wanna put that in the space for you to start considering. Ooh, I'm seeing a response come in. Yeah, making more money from mixing and mastering, and even as a producer, definitely more income for sure. As we've all, I think, mentioned in our case studies, more income is a pretty reliable result of moving past your fraud talk and imposter syndrome. Um, Yeah, really owning your worth, not comparing yourself, seeing your true worth. Karen, thank you for that. Yeah, that's huge. And I mean, these types of energetic experiences are priceless. So, even if it's not something that's a hard, concrete metric or numerical driven result, just that feeling, like if you started to feel like that on a more regular basis, reliably, and you knew how to get yourself to feeling that way, that would be life changing. So, thank you for sharing that. Um, Wow, selling online courses, restarting live broadcasting and podcasts and a live show residency. Yes, Benita. Um, Releasing a song a month. Yes, absolutely. Like just having more of a flow in your release schedule and more confidence, and like relying on yourself to do that. So thank you guys for sharing. Please continue to share. And if you're not into the sharing game, then yeah, continue to consider what that is for you. So we've got some next steps for you. So these are the next steps that you can take to overcome this imposter syndrome and fraud talk. The great news is that there is a path, and it is a replicable path. It's something that you can turn to and use anytime this stuff comes up. And once you start to gain some muscle around it, you can use it anytime, anywhere fraud talk comes up. So I'm going to give you the first few steps. Number one, and we've been doing it on this call, become aware. You've got to name it to tame it. So just being able to say, ooh, I'm experiencing fraud talk. Yep, my inner critic. Hello, there you are. And what you're telling me is that old story. I'm not good enough. I'm too old. I have never been able to get my release schedule at the place where I want it. So who am I to think that I would ever be able to? Just being able to name it starts to strip it of its power. Step two, in the space of befriending to transcend, you got to see how it's helping you, or at least trying to help you. As Suz mentioned at the very, very beginning, when she talked about the biological and psychological impulses of just survival, our built-in survival mechanisms, is your fraud talk trying to protect you? Probably, like in some ways. So in step two, we discover compassion and gratitude for whatever the imposter syndrome or fraud talk is. And again, befriend it to transcend it. Step three in the process is, I like to call it rising with your why. And what that means is that you lift up when you ground into your why. It allows you to lift up. So that's grounding into, what difference could you make? Like if you really did this thing, that fraud talk is blocking you from, what positive difference could you make? Who could benefit? And really, because the truth is the world needs what you create. Someone needs what you create today. They need your music or your art or your cooking or your book or whatever it is, your production. They need it, and they're not getting it if you're not sharing it. Like if you're not actually out there making that offer and sharing it because of fear or playing small or any of the many other manifestations of fraud talk and inner critic, then those people are not getting what they could be getting from you. and you are not receiving the value of what you could be receiving from that transaction. So those are the first 3 steps. I'm going to turn it over to Suz for the last 2.
Yeah. So once you've been able to get to that point, now it's time for the action. So it's taking bold action. It doesn't have to be a ton of action. It's just, let me be bold enough to ignore that fraud talk and take the steps. You can start small, simple, micro steps lead to big progress. So think small and steady, right? Consistency is key there. So taking action is the 4th step. And then the 5th step is that, and I'm sure you've all heard this before, but it doesn't always feel like it's the case, but nobody does this alone. Truly, nobody gets where they are alone. It might feel really lonely on this journey sometimes, but when you want to make real progress, community is key. So surround yourself with community, have conversations, get that ongoing support others. When you are feeling like, oh God, I feel so isolated right now, I don't feel like I can do it, help someone else. It's amazing when we get out of our own head for a minute, what that really does for us too. And when you help somebody else, they most times want to help you back. But when you find the right people, when you find your people, your community, that's where you really start to move forward, because you need that on your worst day where you forget everything that we just taught you today. And you're like, I'm letting fraud talk take over. I'm feeling weak right now. I'm feeling vulnerable. That one nasty comment hit after those 35 positive comments. And now I'm back to, I'm back to 0. So, get that community to believe in you, to say, no, you got to keep going. Don't listen to that. Shake that fraud talk out of you. So community is key. So, those are the 5 steps. It's name it to tame it, befriend it to transcend it, rise with your why, take small and steady action, and then find your community and embrace them. So those are the 5 steps, but the how can feel a little complicated. It's like, okay, thank you for letting me know those 5 steps, but what do I do? Like, how do I get to where I am right now, where I don't fully believe this is possible? How do I overcome that? And so, I know Cassandra and I, as we shared our stories from what we've overcome, we had to put in the work. It is work to get there. It's, it's figuring out how to take these steps and implement them into our own story, into our own lives. So, it's been really fun to talk with you guys, and really amazing to hear you guys share. Thank you for all of your engagement in the comments. You guys rock. This is what we love so much about the CyberPR community, is that you guys don't mess around. You are here to engage and get this conversation off the ground. And so we want to continue that with you. So, beyond this session, because this was an introduction session, something to help you guys understand, name it and really get into that habit of taming it. Understand that you can tame it. That's what we're hoping to do today. And we've got something really special for you guys next week, if you're interested, to really go deeper with it. So Cassandra, I'm going to let you tell them what we've got coming up next week.
Awesome. Yeah, I just want to reiterate again, you guys rock. This community is awesome. You are awesome for showing up and putting in the time. And there's already amazing things ahead for you, because you're that kind of person who does show up and examine and say, I can move ahead. So as Susan and I discussed this topic, and we're both really passionate about this, we were like, what could we do? What could we offer that could actually give people the tools to take this into their daily life, into their careers? And so we are, for the first time ever, offering a collaborative workshop called Shut the Fraud Up. And the workshop is going to be next Monday. We're delivering it live at 12 p.m. Eastern. And in the workshop, we're going to be leading you through the 5 steps, starting with really identifying your fraud talk, befriending it. And that is actually really possible, and not necessarily in the way you might think. We're going to anchor into your incredible vision, your goals, your why for 2024. What is your next up level, the area you want to make strides and gains? And we're going to just start to dismantle some of this stuff that may come up in the way of it. So the best part of it is that you're going to be doing the workshop. If you do this workshop with us, you're coming out of it not only feeling amazing, because we will have worked through at least one really sticky, limiting, negative thought pattern, but you're going to have this pathway this recipe to use to do it again and again anytime fraud talk rears its ugly head. And you're going to be working in community. So if you're able to make it live, you'll be in the community with us. If you are not able to make it live and you're working through it on a replay, you're working through the workshop, which everybody who registers gets limited, or not limited, I'm sorry, lifetime access to this workshop. Lifetime, not limited. Um, so whether or not you're live with us or you are taking the workshop on your own time at your leisure, you're going to be really gaining the value out of it because you will be working through these steps and personalizing them, making them personal to what you are going through. So the quick details on this workshop, again, Shut the Fraud Up is the name of the workshop. It's going to be next Monday, January 15th at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Should be about 2 hours long. Yes, there is a replay. And so that's the basics on that. And Suz, you want to add anything?
Yeah, so we're going to be going over, taking this 5-step framework that we just went over with you and really digging into it, letting you know how you can implement it directly into your career. And yeah, Ariel, please add away.
And also, because this is for my community, I am going to be offering 2 books. They're my digital books. One is called Fan First. It's about how to put all of your fans into a system so that you can get your arms around them and leverage them. And the second book is called Social Media Tune-Up, and it's my system that we use here at CyberPR. We take all of our $5,000 to $10,000 clients through a very specific system of systematically, I've used the word system a lot, systematically going through and figuring out what is working for you online and how to tweak and change. But if there's fraud talk in your head, going and tweaking all of your social media to death and trying to get your arms around your fans will not work, because that little nasty voice that mine is named Little Nasty, but as they said, name it. It's saying to you, you're too dumb to do that. You're too old to do that, whatever. And the books will be meaningless. So for anyone that signs up, you get these 2 bonus books as my gift, because I love y'all. And I also want to impart that this course gives you 2, well, actually 3, if you don't already know me, 3 powerful music industry allies. And that is something that is priceless. Are you ladies in a position to sort of talk about how much it costs, or is there a link that you want to throw in where people can read more?
Yep.
Absolutely.
So also for being amazing members of I don't know why it didn't let me post this comment. It's not, I don't know if you guys are seeing it in the chat. I don't know. It kicked me out of the chat. But we do
weird.
have. Is it showing up?
I see the
I
link.
It's weird. It's not showing up. Anybody who does know me know that I'm great with tech. But basically, just while we figured out that part. Yes, as Ariel said, you guys are her community, and the CyberPR community is so special to us. And we really wanted to thank you guys for spending this Monday evening with us, for showing up, for doing the work. And if you want to continue to do the work, we're going to reward you with a 20% off discount that we're not giving to anyone else. So if you use code CyberFraud20, and we'll put that in the chat there, and we'll also put the link to register for this workshop. The workshop is $97. It is on the 15th at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And there, I see it there. Cyber Fraud 20 is 20% off. So you can go ahead and click the link in the chat. That will get you not only right to the registration page, but with that specific link, the code is automatically taken at checkout. So when you go to checkout, you will see the 20% off already applied. We will be sending you the link to this replay and also this information as well, in case you need to just digest everything that's happened. We will let you continue to use your discount code, and we will send the link in an email with the replay. So do look out for that. but we want to thank you so much and give you that discount
Wow.
because we're not
So
sharing that
just
anywhere else.
recapping, so wait a minute. So they're not only getting the discount to the workshop, but also Ariel, Goddess Ariel, you are throwing in the 2 books. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like the like the amount of value that I know, like I'm just even thinking for myself, like what could I cause in my career, like with that information. So that's
Yeah.
incredible. Wow. That's like amazing, amazing. Thank you. Thank you for throwing that in.
Totally.
So yeah, so if any of you guys have questions, you can always hit us up via our websites or social media. I think all of our handles I think are up here on our profiles. So before we wrap up, because we are actually amazingly on time for an hour, I just want to ask again to ground into what's coming up for you in 2024
Mhm.
and what's one place that you want to increase, improve, level up, or maybe have like a total breakthrough in 2024. So
Yeah.
write your one area in the comments, and you might have more than one area. Like I totally
Yeah.
get that. But like if you were just like, what's the first thing that comes to mind where you're like, this is an area where I definitely want to have a breakthrough, definitely want to level up, definitely want to make some progress. Um, for me, I'll just share it's making $5,000 a gig, which sounds nutso to me. Like that sounds so crazy right now. I have um I have one engagement on the calendar where I do think I'm going to achieve that, but it's not a performing gig. It's a teaching and coaching gig. And I also really have, I have it that I am going to be performing for much bigger crowds. Like we're talking like 300, 500, 1,000 person crowds. I've gotten to the level of playing like 100 to 200 seat venues, but I want to move up to that next level. And I want to do it without performance anxiety, like without physical anxiety, which is something that I've been dealing with in the last few years. And so like, that's for me, the next up level. So Suze, do you want to share yours?
Yeah, my next step level is to work with a record label as their in-house therapist. I've come close. I work with other agencies, but it's time to knock down those mental health walls at those record labels. So that's my big goal. And I just want to shout out Athena. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. First fan after 6 years. Well, you've already got 3 right here. So I want to thank you for sharing that. And if you did have a question, because I think you said you had a question, please feel free to post it in the comment in the chat box as well.
Ariel, want to share like one up level for 2024? What's on your docket?
This is really exciting. So I am in the process of training 9 people. I just put out a call to my email list for new writers to join our marketing team. And how I used to do it was training one person at a time. How I'm doing it now is all these amazing people sent their resumes, and I'm training 9 people. And it's my intention to have a community that works with me and with my agency to be able to support artists. Oh, I lost my headset. To support artists in a way that I've never been able to before. So I've got 9 unbelievable people. One lives in Europe, one lives in South Africa, many different genres of music. Everyone is a working musician. It's really cool. And so my up level is just having a team that I can lean on. Some are young, some are older, and I love it. They're all DIY, very successful in their own rights, and I'm so excited to introduce them to my community moving forward. So excited to have you gals on my team always. So excited that you're offering this to my community, and I hope some of you take advantage of what they're going to do. I also love, and I want to say this, that it's 2 hours, you get in, you get out, no one gets hurt. You don't have to sign up to a 12-week course and keep showing up, and then life gets in the way. I love that you've done this format, that it's like, okay, get down to brass tacks. So of course, if anyone has questions, you can also hit me up if you need any further enthusiasm from me about these amazing humans.
Cool. Well, so all right, guys, that is just about all we have for you today. Again, just want to say thank you to Ariel for hosting us today. And thank you guys for being here. We're really grateful for this community, for all of you fellow artists, creators, entrepreneurs. Thanks for showing up for yourselves. Thanks for showing up for your community. Know that you have made a difference by participating and by being here today. And we are really, really excited to work with you next week. So hop on, register for Shut the Fraud Up. Make sure you get your 20% off using code CyberFraud20. Yeah, we're looking forward to welcoming you in and to kicking 2024 off with some seriously new energy because, different actions lead to different results. And I think one of the quotes that I've been kind of hanging on lately is the old Einstein gem that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So if you're ready for some different results, you want to step into some different results, and you're like, I'd like this to be easy. I would like this to not feel so hard. Then this is it. This is the opportunity. Hop in, register for the workshop, whether you can make it live or you want to do it in the replay. You will still have access to us and the support from us. And Suz, Ariel, any last words before we hop out?
I just want to thank Ariel for having us. This was her brainchild, and thank you so much for inviting us into your world once more, for your amazing community. And guys, you guys made this what it was in the chat. Thank you all for your enthusiasm. Yes, there is a replay. Yes, it will go out as soon as the workshop is done. So you will be getting all of those goodies when you register.
Fantastic. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. Happy New Year. We're looking forward to seeing you in the workshop and hope you have an amazing rest of the day. Bye.
Bye.